Welcome to Idiots Talk Sports. Our show is unofficially sponsored by 5 Hour Energy. Eric, what flavor you got today, guy?
It had to be the berry today.
Berry, classic berry. Extra strength, of course, where today we are discussing the state of the Toronto Maple Leafs.
It's going to be an exciting one.
Breaking down their season stats, prospect pools, free agents, and where we think the team will end up next season. This, Eric, is the best offensive distribution of any team in the league. I think they had 10 players with 40 or more points.
Yeah, it's very impressive to see.
You know, they lose a couple of 40-point guys, JVR and Bozak, but they gain John Tavares. Well, you know, I don't remember when the last time we'd seen something like this. I think Tyler Seguin will be the next one of these.
Yeah.
But this was, everybody thought he was, including me, thought he was re-signing with New York. I mean, I thought there was no way he was leaving. New York's going to offer him the 8th year, whatever amount of money he wants to make.
Well, it's like when the news came out that he was going to Toronto, yeah, who wasn't shocked?
I think anybody is kind of excited, but Toronto is like a move away from, basically a Karlsson deadline acquisition away from becoming the Golden State Warriors of the NHL, it's been fun to watch this, is all I'll say, to see a big star come to a new team. His hometown, which is also super cool for him.
And that's got to be obviously a big reason as to why he chose to go there.
Has to be. And, John Tavares is a very dependable guy. Wins, draws, is just a great offensive talent. He's done some of the filthiest things. What he did to Couturier brought shame to his family, dude. That was disrespectful. With
Tavares, it's not only his stick handling, but his great puck possession and protection.
Exactly, and super competitive out there, and I think he's going to fit right in. One or two. Does he play over Matthews?
I think a lot of people think he should get the number one spot in that center first line.
I think in today's NHL, it's not like it's just ice time. Who's going to have more ice time?
They're both number one.
Yeah,
centers.
Seriously, you're just going to have different line combinations. I think he plays with Marleau and Marner, and that's not knowing much about the situation, but it seems like a nice little spot for him to slot in.
So then, who slides in with Matthews?
Nylander, Hyman, Brown, the guys who are going to fetch Matthews the pucks. Get him the pucks in front of the net. Get him the pucks in the rush.
And a fun stat, comparing these two players. Obviously, Tavares has been in the league a lot longer than Matthews, but it's the face-off percentages.
It's not quite what you'd think.
No. So this year, Tavares' face-off percentage was 52.9, good percentage. He has a 51.3 in his career. Mm-hmm. But Matthews, boy, what a season in the dot he had, 54.5%.
54, and I wonder, do we have the draws? How many draws they took?
It was a good amount. I don't have the exact number.
And Matthews had a little more ice time than I thought he did this year. I think he averaged like 17 and a half minutes. Yeah. I thought he was complaining about his ice time, like getting 15 minutes. But, I think, Babcock, here's the thing. I know Tavares is going to get more starts and more defensive zone starts.
He has more
offensive zone starts. He's a more – you can put him out there at any time, and he's going to compete out there,
right.
So –
because he's been in so many more situations.
That's right. He's a veteran, and damn it, he's good at hockey.
7-8 years in the league?
Yes. And, speaking of free agents, Willie Nylander is their only free agent. He's a restricted free agent. I'm talking AHL, NHL, all of it. And, I kind of wonder if they sign him to a bridge deal or if he ends up getting his 4, 6, 8-year deal. I don't know. I don't – the Leafs have the cap room right now. But next year, Marner, Matthews, Janssen, all those kids.
Going back for just a minute to the Tavares-Matthews thing, it's kind of fun to see, will they be out there together on the power play?
Yeah, they could have one of the best power plays in the league.
Because Matthews has the shot, Tavares has the hands to set him up. And
they already have the best power play in the league.
Well, yeah, they were they were second best in the league, 25%.
And this, this can only help. And I really, you are getting rid of a JVR who had some time on the power play.
JVR had a lot of points too. I was a little surprised by his point totals.
JVR had a career year, and he was ready to sign that contract. It was his contract year. So.
Went to Philly, didn't he?
Yeah, went back home. I believe that was the team that drafted him. And the whole part about this is it really seems like this is the year they have to do it. I really do believe that they could make a move for Erik Karlsson at the deadline if Ottawa keeps him. If some team isn't already committing to a contract extension. I think anybody's going to pay Karlsson. It would be smart of Karlsson to negotiate an extension with his trade, which is what a lot of guys have been doing recently. But I think the Leafs have expendable assets.
Right.
And we'll talk about their AHL run here and the Marlies run in a few minutes, but I think they could give them, Ottawa 3 or 4 prospects, high level prospects,
and just go for it this year. Try to pick up Carlson,
and maybe that's too much. I don't know. I don't know what a GM would price on a Carlson rental, but I know it would be less than it is now.
Right.
Getting that full year, and I don't think the Leafs could sign him. I think it'd be clear as rental, but that would be really interesting.
Well, this is the best Leafs team we've seen in some time.
I think they broke a franchise record for points.
Wow.
When
there you go.
Here. So it is certainly one of the best they've ever, and that they just signed John Tavares.
Is it the best Leafs team we've seen? Certainly in the modern hockey area.
Well, you and I, that's for sure.
Yeah.
When I first started really paying attention to hockey, the Leafs were terrible.
Right.
For many years. But truth be told, that defense, man, it's not good. That is the only thing I'd be worried about.
That's the question mark.
So, you've got – is Morgan Riley number 1? If Ron Hainsey is in your top 2 or 3, I don't think you can rank Zaitsev or Gardner above a Hainsey.
Right.
Hainsey blocks shots.
Yeah, 169 block shots?
And what would Riley and Gardner had great offensive years.
Yeah, both very, I guess, smaller offensive defensemen. So they can definitely, get the puck in the play, a lot of assists. Both had the same amount of points at 52. Gardner blocks a lot more shots than Morgan Riley does. He had 103.
Morgan Riley seems strictly offensive to me, really.
But like you were saying, they need, a bigger, more experienced, skilled, stay-at-home defender or 2.
Yeah.
Just so they have a little bit of protection back there.
Zaitsev is a big body, lays the body out there, hits, but he's not, I see – and I don't watch a ton of the Leafs. I'm not going to pretend to act like I do. But when I watch them, I can't help but notice, just it's the little things that maybe these guys don't do as well as – and they're young. You know what I mean?
They're just so high-powered on the offensive side of the game.
It makes their defense look inefficient.
Well, and it could even make the defense look a little bit better than they would otherwise just because they score so many goals per game.
They can win 6-5.
Yeah.
And –
Riley and Gardner are both great players,
yeah.
and Hainsey's doing a great job over there. But it would just be good to see a little something more.
No, absolutely. And they've got a ton of prospects. Guys like Dermott coming up, Callie Rose and Andreas Borgman. I think all these guys who are ready, or they've got 4 or 5 young guys who are ready. And they don't have that many roster spots. So I'm really interested to see where some of these guys go. This is what I'm talking about for Erik Karlsson deal. Rent him.
Yeah.
Send the prospects, send the picks, win the cup this year. I wouldn't be surprised if something like that came out. And let's talk about a little bit, focus back again on a kid like Mitch Marner. I think if you're a Leafs fan, we forgot to mention him.
Well, let's go into the offensive players now. We talked about Matthews and Tavares, then we kind of jumped to defense, but let's talk about the other offensive talents.
Marner. If you were a Leafs fan, you should be as excited for Marner as you are for Matthews.
Marner is so good all around in the offensive zone. He just has
dynamic.
Yeah, very dynamic. He can do it. He can do it all. He's not the biggest body, but he doesn't need to be. With the style of game he plays, he can set you up. He can score goals. He's quick. What can't he do up there in the offense?
Exactly, and he's a guy that helps out on the power play, and obviously greatly. He makes a ton of smart plays. Marner is very impressive.
Well, and Marner had 22 goals this year in 82 games, and he was shooting 11%, 11.3 to be exact. But what if we see him go off at a 14, 15%?
It's not unlikely.
And score close to 30 goals. He had 47 assists, 69 points, so could be an 80-point guy next year.
No, I really do believe that. I think, Leafs fans, this is, maybe as exciting, if not more than it's teams like that remind me, it's like St. Louis. Ton of prospects, a ton of guys who are ready or will next year be ready to make the plunge, get up there to the NHL, and the Leafs are so deep on so many different positions, and it's really it's amazing to look at the AHL, the Marlies this year. They win the Calder Cup. Carl Grunstrom comes over from the SHL. Andreas Janssen has another, as we say, a coming out party, if you will. But these guys, they all made a huge step, and it's exciting to see how much more talent is waiting in the wings.
Right.
And offensive talent. This is a this team has drafted. This is what I want to get to as well as any team in the league.
And a guy who we're gonna have to talk about for a little bit here that puts up some offensive production.
Are we talking about the center depth?
I think we are.
We're not. His name is like Voldemort. I almost don't even want to mention it.
It's tough.
The third line center for the Toronto Maple Leafs.
And we try not to be biased.
Yeah,
when we talk about these teams,
look, Toronto's on the East Coast. We're on the East Coast. We get to watch Toronto games.
Sure.
We're up when they're on. I enjoy watching them.
Oh yeah, fun team to watch.
But Nazem Kadri is the dirtiest player in the NHL.
It's got to be him or Marchand.
I mean, but Marchand, is exactly that. I think it's 1A and 1B is what that is.
The thing with Kadri is he's a 30-goal scorer.
He is.
He had
He's so good.
32 goals the past 2 seasons.
Marchand's the best comparison.
So he's scoring a lot of goals for him. He's putting up points. He's
so talented.
He's a tough player, but he just plays what appears to be a dirty brand of hockey that nobody likes really seeing. When you're trying to purposely injure other players, not to mention the superstars, but when you're just trying to purposely knee on knee.
As a fan of the Washington Capitals, I don't want to see Claude Giroux get drilled into the boards and be laying stiff on the ice for 10 minutes. I don't that's disgusting. You know what I mean? I don't want to see a guy on any team get injured out there because it sucks. It's bad for the sport, especially when it's a star. And Kadri, he plays that line that
he goes over it a lot of times.
That's and when you say play the line, it's like it's a game of inches, and it's a game of super quick decisions, and a lot of them are bad.
Guys like Tom Wilson, Ryan Reeves,
walking the line,
Chris Kreider, tiptoes around that line, but they don't. I'm sure every now and then they may cross it, but Kadri seems to cross it more than he should, more than those guys, more than he needs to.
I may be off on this, but what I've noticed is when a guy like Tom Wilson rails a guy, Zach Aston-Reese in the playoffs maybe, he didn't look at the refs like, what?
He knew what he did.
He knew what he did. And I really think that Kadri's one of those guys who will go full speed into your goalie and be like, what? Dude, you pushed me in.
Yeah, it appears.
Kreider levels.
Yeah.
So, his knee on Ovechkin, Wingles this year in the playoffs. He tried to kill Tommy Wingles, let's be honest here. And Tommy Wingles I think he had a dirty hit on one of Toronto guys a couple plays. But that's no excuse to try to smash somebody's head in the boards, dude. Like, that's not,
Yeah, well, and going back to the knee on knee, I think the defense was, he was going for a hip check. Hip check. That seemed to be what people were saying.
I have never, and Ovechkin did try to avoid it, but the fact is that Kadri was going for a hip check at full speed, dude. That is an intent to injure play. A hip check properly. Here's the thing: a hip check properly executed is one along the boards in which you put your ass to the boards and close somebody off. That's a good hip check. Yeah, if you can flip him over, that's fine. But when this guy's skating full speed at you and you're skating full speed at him, you don't go for a hip check, dude. You'll break somebody's legs.
If you want to see what a good hip check should be, PK Subban.
PK Subban is a master of the close-off hip check.
Yeah.
And you know what? He'll even get you in
open ice.
Just the decision for Kadri to go for the hip check, to put his hips where he did, to try to the whole thing was just, it was a bad decision.
It just looked like he was going for the leg area, not the waist or,
That's all for the Kadri rant. If you're a Maple Leafs
talented
fan,
player,
go ahead and like him. Yeah, the thing is, they lose a little bit of sandpaper this year. Komarov goes to the Islanders, to go follow Lou. Apparently, that's one of Lou's favorites. Who knows? But again, the Leafs really are structuring like they have to win it this year. Well, and we got to talk about Freddie Anderson.
I was just gonna say, they have a good goaltender. If they do make a deep run, then
they
got the goalie for it.
Freddie Anderson is so stout, looks so good. I was talking to you the other day. I think he's only had one bad stretch in his whole career.
And he's a big goalie.
And
he's
that's
6'4", 230.
Right when he came over to the Leafs, and the Leafs fans, I'm not saying Leafs fans, but I certainly read a few people saying this guy is not what we were promised. And he is. The Maple Leafs last year were led in the fourth most shots in the league, though. Yeah. Or not shots in, shots attempted.
Shot attempts. Yeah. Well, and Freddie Anderson, his career save percentage is a .918. That's a good career.
That's a fantastic.
In 257 games.
That's a fantastic career. He's a big guy.
Yeah.
Big Freddie.
Yeah, 6'4", 230.
Just a big guy in there, has great net presence, is a competitor, battles. I mean, he made one of those Holtby-like saves this playoffs. And
Right.
if Toronto would have made it a little further, that would have been on the T-shirts, just like Holtby's save, you know?
Yeah.
It was the same. It was just like that. I think it was in air. You know, I've seen him make those paddles.
And I think Toronto fans understand now what they have with Freddie
yes.
Anderson.
For sure. 100%. Toronto fans should be as excited as any fan base in the league. I mean, truly. I'm not going to – and, I don't want to say that they're the early Cup favorite because at the end of the day, if the Arizona Coyotes win the Cup next year, I'm not surprised. If the New York Islanders won the Cup next year –
do you feel they're the projected Cup favorite, if you will?
They are certainly in their top 3, top 5.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's easy. That's easy to say. I think for the first time in a few years, Pittsburgh is out. I don't think Pittsburgh's in this year. And I shouldn't say few years because maybe the year they won it, the first year they won it, they probably weren't projections. But this league is, the parity in this league is what we celebrate.
Well, and something we didn't even talk about, I'm just going to go back to for a second here, is how will John Tavares fit into the style of play in the system over there in Toronto? It's always a little bit of a question mark, too, that nobody's really talking about.
Babcock likes his defensive guys. I talked about that earlier. I said that he will fit in.
Did you? Okay.
To Babcock's, and I didn't, the fit is there because Babcock likes the Komarovs. He likes the Kadris. He likes the guys that play the 200-foot game. And that's why Komarov, I think, had more ice time last year than Matthews did. I don't know that for sure, but a lot of times you'd see Matthews 4 or 5 minutes in the third period and Komarov at 8. So Komarov plays the penalty kill. He gets a few extra shifts out there. I think at some point Matthews was not on the first power play. So, anyways, Babcock likes his defensively responsible guys. So John Tavares, I think, is going to fit right in there like a glove. And I think he'll finish with more ice time than Austin Matthews. I do believe that.
It's just great to have so many options at center if you're the Toronto Maple Leafs.
If you're on NHL and you go to their edit lines, it's like, what is this? A team that you created on Be a GM? Is this like a team? This doesn't seem like a real team. And especially when the projections of guys like the Grundstroms and the Janssens and all those kids, they're going to be good.
And with all this being said, let's talk about how much is expected out of this team.
Oh,
the
yeah.
expectations are so high. There's going to be a lot of pressure.
There's no question.
Over there in Toronto.
This is probably the most stressful time it'd ever be to play in Toronto because you are expected to win the Cup. And at the same time, the media there is already crazy.
It's going to be great for these young players. It's going to bring them a lot of experience quickly, early on in their careers, guys like Mitch Marner.
100%. It's invaluable.
Austin Matthews.
Some guys can't. Here's the thing. Some guys can't shine in that scenario, but what we've seen is Mitch Marner, Austin Matthews. You've seen these kids shine in Toronto, getting interviewed for 3 hours after every game. Game 25 of the regular season, you've got 15 reporters around you. Some teams, it's not like that. Go to Arizona.
And there's going to be even more going on this upcoming season.
The buzz around Toronto is and was crazy. And we don't know. We're Florida guys, but it seems like everybody's expecting a lot from that team, and we'll see how they handle the expectations.
You think every game's a sellout?
Oh, of course. And it's now it's so this is weird about the arena. It's now the Scotiabank Arena. It was the Air Canada for so long, and they change out advertisers or whatever. But I think the Scotiabank Dome was the Calgary Dome. So it's so weird saying, so now the Scotiabank Center. It's like, okay, Scotiabank, we get it, Anyways, with that said, this is going to be an extremely exciting time to be a Leafs fan. And if you are a fan, you may want to start buying Stanley Cup Championship memorabilia now. Get the tattoo. You heard it here first, folks. They're winning the Cup. All right, everybody. That does it for today's show. One last thank you to Ben Rosette for letting us use his music for our podcast. The full title for the songs used can be found in the description below. Thanks for tuning in, and you'll be hearing from us soon.